Okay, welcome back. So Microsoft has provided us an Excel spreadsheet with all of this stuff. It lists every single setting, and so I need to be able to find this thing. I want to be able to like do a search on it. Now, I do not have Microsoft Excel loaded on my domain controller, which is probably a good thing, okay? Because you don't want to have that large of an attack surface. So please do not go install Microsoft Office on a domain controller. So now I have to switch over to my host machine, which has everything installed, in order to get to this file. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so this is my host machine, and it has everything. So I'm going to double click on this guy, Windows 11 and Windows Server 2019 policy settings. This is in supplemental materials. Okay, so I'm going to click on this guy, and I need to do a search on this document because it's monstrously huge. And I need to find the one, first of all, there's one called Administrative Settings and Security Settings. So if I was to ask you to configure it so that you have to do the Control-Alt-Delete, that would probably be in this tab. But turning off the display, okay, that one probably would be something else, okay? So I happen to know the name of this thing, but you could just have, you could guess. So I'm just going to light up this one column to do a search on. Control F is how you get a search in Microsoft Excel. So I'm going to type in something like, turn off the display, okay? Turn off the display and hit next. Boom. And it says, there it is. There's the one for while plugged in. That's what I want. So what I want to know is, where the heck is this guy? Okay, so I'm going to scoot back a little bit, or maybe forward a little bit, to see if I can figure out where this thing is. Well, now I can't see what line I'm in. I'm going to close this guy. Okay, so it's under the machine part. Okay, it's not a user setting, it's a machine setting. And then there's under System, Power Management, Video, and Display Settings. Okay, now you're going to have to almost write this down. All right, so you've written it down, haven't you? And now I'm going to switch back over to my domain controller. Okay, cool. And so here's my my screensaver guy. Okay, maybe not. Let's create me a new policy called not screensaver. Let's call it how about display settings? That makes good sense. I'm just going to go here and say new display settings. Dang. Okay, cool. And now I'm going to go and find that guy. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go directly to edit because that's what I want to do. And now I need to go figure it. So it was a computer setting, right? Right? And it was one administrative template. Remember that tab? Okay. And so what was after that? So it was templates, and then system, and then power. Let me stretch this guy over a little bit. And then power management, and then video and display settings. Woohoo! I finally got to this thing. See how difficult this thing was? So now it's just turn off the display while plugged in. I'm going to click on this guy, double click on it. I want to enable it because otherwise I'm not doing anything. And then change this to 0. 0 means don't ever turn it off. Okay, by the way, the little help here, it would have been really nice if they had said, oh yeah, if you set this thing to 0, it'll disable that feature. It doesn't say that. I don't really know why. Okay, so ta-da! We've created a GPO, and it's called Display Settings. And so now I want to uplink that guy to something, because creating a GPO by itself doesn't do it. And so which OU contains our domain controller? Because that's where I want this to apply. Where is it? Why, it's in this domain controller OU, right? So could I grab this and drop it on there like that? Do you want to link this to this organizational unit? Yes, I do. Okay. Now, I do want this in a particular order because I want the default one to happen first, and then I want my secondary one to happen. So, oh, I grabbed the wrong one. I grabbed the screensaver one. Sorry. I didn't mean to. I meant the display setting ones. Hey, I'm going to just go ahead and whack that guy. Now, I'm not whacking. I'm just whacking the link. The GPO is still down here. Okay, so the order is important because I think this is probably the guy that's setting it to 10 seconds. So I can't have it go first. I have to have mine go last. Okay? Make sense? Okay. So now that I've got a GPO and I've linked it to the right organizational unit, next time I log into my machine, I won't have to go there and go to the thing and turn off the dang display settings. Okay? That kind of makes sense? Okay, one more time. Can a single GPO be applied to multiple organizational units? In other words, could I also do that to the PCs? Yes, I could. I'm going to grab my display settings and drop him on the PCs. So now it's in there twice. The PC guy has them and the domain controller guys. What about server guys? Sure, why not? You know, that kind of stuff. So a single GPO can be applied to multiple organization units. Okay? And if I apply it at the parent level, like PCs, does the engineering people get this? Yes, they do. Do the sales people get this? Yes, they do. Because it's inherited, so to speak. It does this guy and then goes in and grab the others. Okay? Kind of makes sense? Good. Okay, so let's talk about some common uses for GPOs. So, setting password length and complexity rules for the entire domain. That would be a good one. Hide some control panel applets. Maybe you don't want people poking around doing something. Disable removable media. That's a good one for an awful lot of companies that were, you're trying to make sure that no one sticks a thumb drive or a CD-ROM and starts copying things or bringing viruses to work. Block installing unwanted software. You could have a list of software that they're allowed to install. Okay. And then one of the ones that I kind of like it's gonna appear in your term assignment is required that you use Control-Alt-Delete at the beginning login scenario. Okay, so we're not quite done. So let's talk about things that are not in the book and just further reading. There's a thing called loopback, and that is, let's say, remember the order, it does the local first, and then the site, and then the domain, and then the OUs. So let's say you have a machine in the conference room, and it's just an ordinary machine, and so there's only one of them. So do I really want to create a separate organizational unit just for that one machine? You could. Nothing wrong with that. Or you could say, well, particularly the display settings. While I'm in the conference room doing something, I do not want the screen to go blank. And so I want this display setting thing to occur after every single other thing has been applied. Okay? And the way you do that is you put it in the local group policy and then enable this thing called loopback. What basically means is it starts with the local, site, group, OU, and then goes back and hits local a second time. Okay, that's how you get some things more permanent than others. Okay. GP result. This is a command line tool. It's a troubleshooting tool. It'll basically run through. It'll even tell you how long it takes for each one of these GPOs to run. It'll tell you which ones were applied because sometimes it's not immediately clear. Whether you might think that the machine is in the engineering group, but it's actually in sales. And so that's the reason why you're having a problem. So you run GP result and it goes, oh, dang, I'm not getting the right stuff because I got it in the wrong place. That kind of stuff. But it'll also tell you how long it takes. That's kind of interesting. And then another one called resultant set of policies. This is the graphical version of that same thing. Okay, it basically goes in and shows you, and you can do a what if drill. You can say, pretend like I'm on this machine with this user account. What settings would I get? Boom. That's pretty doggone cool. It's a way of predicting in advance what these things are going to look like, which is kind of sort of the same thing as this thing called group policy results. Okay, so let's talk about best practices because, again, this is the philosophical section. All right, rule number 1, don't mess with the original default domain policy or the original the default domain policy or the default domain controller policy. Just leave them alone. Yes, I guess you are allowed to go in and modify a value, like change the number of days from 42 to 60 or something, but don't add or delete anything from there. If you want to change something, add another GPO. Leave those alone for the most part, okay? Number 2, group similar things, either users or PCs together. Think about what machines need what software. And if the answer is, well, I've got the lab machines over here, and I've got engineering machines over here, and I've got accounting machines over here, and I got sales, then that ought to be how you organize your OUs. Think about what software do they need. And if there's five different PC configurations in your office, well, then there ought to be 5 subsets underneath your PC OU. Nest OUs to make your life easy, okay? And then if you need additional stuff, it goes deeper in the thing. Do not combine multiple settings into a giant GPO. Don't have a GPO that says, all my settings. Don't do that. Do them like this. Here's the one for the screensaver. Here's the one for the display timeout. Okay, it's okay to have a dozen of these things linked. Okay, it's perfectly okay. That would be much, much better than having some gargantuan GPO that no one understands that says, here's everything that I like. Okay, don't do that. Use descriptive names like display settings or screensaver. Put some comments in here. There's some really cool opportunities for here when you go in that you can actually put in some interesting comments about what this thing is and why I did it. That'd be kind of cool. Perhaps even use a content management system, a database, to track the changes to this guy, because these things are kind of sort of important, right? You really don't want to have too many messed up. And one more time, there shouldn't be anything left over when I switch back over to my users and computers guy. There shouldn't be anything left over in the built-in, the computer guy or the users guy. There should be nothing in there other than what came with it, right? No, all the real users ought to be someplace else, okay, in some organizational unit. Okay, why? Why? Because I cannot apply a GPO to a container. I can only apply them to GPOs, GPOs, sites, and domains. There's 4 things I can link a GPO to. Top level domain, site, and the organizational units, okay? But I can't link one here and I can't link one there, right? So that's the reason, okay? Hey, so what about groups? I went to all this trouble and built all these groups and I don't get to use them at all when I'm over here? Yeah, that's exactly right. So if you're building organizational units for administering things like software, settings, but not for permissions, you do not use this for permissions. For permissions, you remember how this thing works. You put them in a global group and then put the global group into a local group and then you use the local group to assign permissions to a resource, okay? That's how this is done. So the two are not really related. Okay, that philosophical section I just read off, boy, that sure sounds like a good test question material to me. What do you think? All right, we've reached the end of this, and I'll see you guys again in the next video.